You don't need to cut out every carb to control blood sugar. Research shows it's less about elimination, more about timing, pairing, and smart choices. In this video, we'll cover 9 simple, science-backed habits to reduce spikes, protect energy, and let you enjoy food without fear. Let's begin with the first, a smarter, lower-carb approach. When we talk about stabilizing blood sugar, one of the most effective first steps is to cut back on refined carbohydrates. I don't mean eliminating every grain of rice or never touching bread again. I'm talking about being smart with your choices. White bread, pastries, sodas, and highly processed snacks all deliver a rapid flood of glucose into your bloodstream. That sudden spike forces your body to release more insulin, and once the sugar drops, you're left tired, irritable, and craving more. Research backs this up. A 2021 BMJ review found that people who shifted toward lower carb diets had better blood sugar control and, in many cases, needed less medication. As Harvard's Dr. David Ludwig once explained, it's not just the calories you eat, but how those calories affect your hormones and metabolism. Think of it this way. Swapping a plate of white rice for lentils or quinoa isn't just about fewer carbs, it's about choosing carbs that release energy more steadily. Start small. Replace one refined carb each day with a slower option: beans, vegetables, or whole grains. Try it at lunch tomorrow. You'll likely notice smoother energy and fewer mid-afternoon crashes. One of the simplest ways to steady blood sugar is not about what you eat, but the order you eat it in. If you begin your meal with vegetables or protein and leave the starches for last, you can significantly blunt the glucose spike that follows. Think of it as lining your stomach with a protective layer before the fast-acting carbs arrive. A 2015 study published in Diabetes Care tested this idea. Researchers asked people with type 2 diabetes to eat the exact same meal on different days. One time starting with bread and juice, and another time starting with chicken and salad, saving the carbs for last. The results were striking. Post-meal blood sugar was about 29% lower when protein and vegetables came first. It makes sense. Protein and fiber slow the rate at which food leaves the stomach, so when the carbs finally reach your intestines, they're digested more gradually. In practical terms, this is easy to try. At your next dinner, begin with a small salad, some chicken, or even a handful of nuts, and save the bread or rice for later. You may find your energy feels more stable and your hunger less urgent afterward. Another powerful but often overlooked strategy is to avoid eating naked carbs. By that, I mean starches or sugars on their own. If you pair them with something acidic, like vinegar or lemon juice, or with a healthy fat such as olive oil, you slow down how quickly your body absorbs the glucose. There's solid science behind this. A 2005 Swedish study showed that adding vinegar to a high-carb meal reduced both blood glucose and insulin responses by around 20–30%. Similarly, fats provide what we call a buffer effect because they delay stomach emptying. One trial published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that eating bread with olive oil lowered the glycemic response compared to bread alone. This doesn't mean you need to drown your food in vinegar or oil. It simply means that instead of eating white bread by itself, dip it in olive oil or add a splash of lemon juice to your rice or salad. These small tweaks help your body handle the same food much more gently. So next time you're about to grab a slice of bread or a bowl of pasta, remember, don't eat it naked. Give it a partner and let your blood sugar thank you. Not all carbohydrates behave the same way in your body. Some rush in like a flood, while others trickle in slowly, giving you steady energy instead of a spike and crash. The key is to favor what we call low glycemic or slow carbs. These are foods that take longer to digest, things like steel-cut oats, beans, lentils, sweet potatoes, or brown rice. A classic Harvard study by Dr. David Ludwig compared instant oats to steel-cut oats. The calories and carbs were technically the same, but the effect was not. The instant oats led to a sharp spike in blood sugar, followed by a crash that left participants hungrier. In fact, those who ate the high glycemic breakfast went on to consume about 80% more calories later in the day compared to those who had the slower oats. This shows us that it isn't just carbs versus no carbs, but rather the type of carbs that matters. The more processed and refined the carb, the faster it hits your bloodstream. A simple change you can try tomorrow. Swap out instant cereal or white bread for something less processed, like steel-cut oats or whole grain toast. Notice how much steadier your energy feels. Here's a fascinating trick you may not have heard of. The way you cook and store starches can actually change how they affect your blood sugar. When you cook foods like rice, pasta, or potatoes and then let them cool, part of the starch changes its structure. It becomes what scientists call resistant starch. This form of starch resists digestion, meaning it passes through your small intestine without being fully broken down into glucose. Research supports this. A 2019 review in the journal Nutrients found that resistant starch not only lowers the blood sugar response after meals, but also supports gut health by feeding beneficial bacteria. Even more interesting, a simple change in how food is prepared can make a noticeable difference. For example, cooled rice in a salad or chilled potatoes in a potato salad will lead to a smaller glucose spike compared to the same food eaten hot and freshly cooked. This doesn't mean you have to eat all your starches cold. Even partially cooling and reheating them keeps some of that resistant starch intact. One of the simplest tools for managing blood sugar doesn't come from the kitchen at all. It comes from how you move your body after eating. A short walk within 30 minutes of a meal can make a dramatic difference. Why? Because when you move, your muscles act like sponges, pulling glucose out of your bloodstream to use as fuel. Instead of storing that sugar away, your body burns it right away. A 2016 study in Diabetologia looked at people who walked after meals versus those who remained seated. The results were clear. Just 10 to 15 minutes of walking after eating reduced post-meal blood glucose by about 22%. Interestingly, walking before the meal didn't have the same benefit. It's the timing, right after you eat, that matters most. Think of it this way. You don't need to hit the gym for an hour. You just need a gentle walk around the block. Even light activity, like tidying up the kitchen or walking the dog, is enough to get your muscles working. So next time you finish dinner, resist the urge to sit down right away. Step outside, move a little, and let your body use the energy you just gave it. When it comes to blood sugar, when you eat can matter just as much as what you eat. Our bodies are naturally more insulin sensitive during the day, meaning we handle food better in the morning and afternoon. As the evening sets in, metabolism slows, and the same meal that caused only a modest rise at lunch can cause a much sharper spike at night. A 2013 study in Diabetologia compared people eating their largest meal at breakfast versus dinner. Those who front-loaded their calories earlier in the day had lower post-meal blood sugar, burned more energy, and reported feeling less hungry later on. On the other hand, heavy late-night meals were more likely to be stored away as fat because the body was preparing for rest, not activity. This doesn't mean you have to skip dinner. It simply means making dinner lighter, perhaps focusing on lean protein and vegetables, while enjoying more of your calories earlier in the day. So here, it's a simple shift you can try. Swap a heavy evening meal for a heartier lunch. Give your body the fuel when it needs it most, and notice how your evenings feel calmer and less sluggish. If there's one nutrient that consistently shows up as a protector of blood sugar health, it's fiber. Think of fiber as the natural brake pedal for your digestion. It slows down how quickly carbohydrates are broken down and absorbed, meaning your blood sugar rises more gradually instead of spiking sharply. The evidence is strong. A 2019 meta-analysis published in The Lancet looked at over 200 studies and found that people with the highest fiber intake had a 16 to 24% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes compared to those with the lowest. Soluble fiber, the kind found in foods like beans, apples, oats, and flax seeds, is particularly effective. It forms a gel-like substance in your gut, which literally slows the release of glucose into your bloodstream. Beyond blood sugar, fiber also helps you feel fuller for longer, which naturally reduces overeating. That's why a bowl of lentil soup or an apple with the skin can keep you satisfied far better than white bread or a sugary snack. An easy step to try today: add just one extra serving of fiber-rich food to your next meal. Maybe that's a handful of berries at breakfast or a side of beans at dinner. Small increases add up quickly. One of the most powerful ways to give your body a break from constant blood sugar spikes is to simply stop eating for a while. This is the idea behind intermittent fasting. Not a crash diet, but a gentle rhythm of eating and resting. By extending the time between meals, especially overnight, You allow insulin levels to fall and give your cells a chance to reset. The research is encouraging. A 2018 study published in Cell Metabolism found that adults with prediabetes who practiced early time-restricted feeding, eating all their meals within an 8-hour window during the day, improved insulin sensitivity and reduced blood pressure even without losing weight. Other trials suggest that fasting can help reduce overall glucose exposure across the day. You don't need to make dramatic changes. For many people, simply delaying breakfast by an hour or finishing dinner earlier in the evening makes a noticeable difference. The key is consistency, not intensity. So here's a practical step. Tomorrow, try eating dinner a little earlier or wait an extra hour before your first meal. Notice how your energy feels. Many people find they are more focused and less sluggish when the body gets a true rest period. Managing blood sugar doesn't require cutting out every carbohydrate. It's about smart choices. Eating vegetables or protein first, pairing carbs with buffers like vinegar or olive oil, choosing slow-digesting options, cooling starches, moving after meals, front-loading your day, adding fiber, and giving your body rest with gentle fasting. Each step is small on its own, but together they create steadier energy, calmer moods, and stronger long-term health. Remember, these are not quick fixes. They are habits that shape identity. Start with just one change today, and let it be a quiet investment in a brighter, steadier you.